Continuing. You know she's unlikely to be understanding, and you know the energy drained out of you when you imagine what would happen if you managed to blurt out everything you're feeling. What do? Tell her everything is fine, and thank her for asking. Yeah. I'm okay, Mom, really. Thanks for worrying about me. Your mother looks at you from across the room with furrowed brows, and you wonder if the tone in her voice was the least bit convincing. She slightly opened her mouth as though she was about to say something more, but instead she digged through her phone for her purse for her cell phone, having apparently decided against it. Well, as long as you're okay, honey, her voice trails. As your mother returns to what amounts to more or less small talk, you realize that this part of the conversation has happened a lot recently. Someone will express concern for you or ask if you're okay out of seemingly nowhere. You tend to find that it's simpler to just declare that you're okay than finding the right words for complicated and murky feelings. Besides, since none of them were in reaction to a specific event, maybe you really are okay and just complaining about nothing anyway. Sometimes when you insist that you are okay to those who ask, you have to wonder if you're trying to convince them or yourself. Okay. It is lazy Sunday morning. You are idly clicking around online as your phone rings. Sam, a co-worker of yours that you're friendly with, asks how are you and makes hurried small talk with you. You typically only ever talk to him on the phone when one of you needs a shift covered, so it's slightly awkward. You're waiting in anticipation for him to ask you to come in on short notice when he veers the conversation in a completely different direction. How do you feel about cats? He asked. Mine had kittens a few weeks ago, and I'm having an awfully hard time finding a home for the last one of the litter. You don't have any pets, right? It takes you it takes you a moment to process this new information, and you're caught off guard as he begins to inertly try to sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hand. It's not something you had specifically considered before, and he seems fairly insistent. She's a real sweetheart, really loves people. She got all the shots already taken care of, and the vet said she's healthy as a horse. I can bring her over to your place tonight if you're interested. You look around your apartment and try to picture a cat in it as he continues to tell you about how cute she is. You tell him that this is all kind of sudden and that you don't have anything for the kitten to set up here. Oh, don't worry, I can bring over a litter box and food and all that since you'd really be helping me out of a fix. It's the least I can do. I just don't want to have to put her in a shelter. You can't help but feel like you're being guilt-tripped, but you decide to give it some serious consideration. It does get awfully lonely around your apartment. It might feel less empty with a cat around. However, since you've been feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on the responsibility of a cat, even if they are fairly low maintenance. Yeah, I'll take a cat, even though I don't like cats personally. You accept the offer of the kitten and hang up shortly after making arrangements for when your coworker can drop her off tonight. You are entirely sure what to expect, and you spend the rest of the afternoon researching the cat care online and trying to think of a name. The evening rolls around and you hear a knock at your door, startling you out of reading Wikipedia entirely too hard. You take possession of a small, terrified black and white kitten in a carrier, along with everything you need to start taking care of her. You take her into your bedroom, close the door, and open the door to the carrier excitedly. She cowers in the back of it, and you back off, feeling slightly defeated. You remember what you researched on introducing a kitten to a new home and leave her alone to go mess around on your computer, hopefully checking over the shoulder every so often to see if she'd come out yet. She hides inside her carrier periodically, making sorrowful cat howls long enough for you to start worrying that she already doesn't like you. But by the time you go to bed, she curled up at the foot of it, eyeing you nervously before falling asleep. Over the next few days, you gain her trust, and she begins affectionately following you around, sleeping on you and hopping up on you anytime you sit down to do some work. It's Friday afternoon, and quitting time is just around the corner. A bright, clear day is giving way to a still, temperate evening. You can hear your coworkers all around you anxiously making plans for your evenings and weekends, but you're really looking forward to just going home and resting after what's turned out to be a very long, taxing work week. Just before the end of your shift, you get a call from Alex. It seems a group of your mutual friends are heading out to a nearby pub for dinner and drinks to celebrate the end of the week, and they want to know if you'd like to come along. You tentatively tell her that you're emotionally exhausted from the work week and a social outing that would just take too much out of you today. You encourage her to go and go have a good time, since you know it's been a while since she's going out with friends. But the effort feels futile since you know that she isn't going to go without you. A couple hours later, the two of you find yourselves in a familiar position. On the couch watching comedy shows on Netflix, a box of pizza open on the coffee table in front of you. As you look across the couch at her, you start to feel anxious. You feel bad about effectively forcing the two of you to stay in tonight, again. While you are always appreciative of your partner's efforts to take your feelings into account and make sure you're socially comfortable, you sincerely worry that you're holding her back from enjoying a more fulfilling relationship. While she does seem to enjoy spending time with you, as the two of you sit in comfortable, almost contented silence watching old shows that you've seen 2 or 3 times before, your ever-increasing fear that your relationship is becoming one-sided weighs more and more heavily on you. You feel more than ever like a burden or a reward to her, and it's virtually impossible for you to see what value you could possibly offer to her in return. Worst of all, this nagging fear has made you feel more self-conscious than ever, withdrawing ever in words, and you've started to pull away, even from Alex herself. What do? I'm not going to say anything. This is far from the first time you would have had this conversation with her, and it's one that plays out the same way every time. You explain your fears of being worthless, and she tries to tell you that she doesn't see you that way. You insist that she's being biased or just being nice to you because she's your girlfriend, and she gets frustrated. It never resolves. Nothing new is ever said, and rarely do you feel reassured by it. Occasionally, she tries to broach the subject, trying to discover why you feel like this about yourself. This always makes you feel nervous. You're sometimes convinced that the only reason she's with you is because she doesn't know how awful you really are. As time has gone on, you've gotten more comfortable trying to express the bits and pieces of your insecurities to her, but it still causes you to feel very on guard, and it's not a conversation you can have for too long without worrying you're going to scare her away. The weight of an unspoken resolved issue in your relationship joins you in the room for a little while, but you dare not to pick at it for the rest of the night. Okay, that'll be it for this episode, part 2. I know it might be getting a little boring, but I did not expect it to be like a reading kind of game, but I'm fine with it. So, bye.